Hello, my name is Matthew Lugg and I'm pleased to be here today to launch this new, a number of new HMEP procurement products through this CHIT webinar. I'll initially introduce these products and then you'll hear directly from the lead consultants that have been involved in developing them. So today specifically we're launching a new standard contract for highway maintenance services and you'll hear from Joe Downing of CWC. Also a routes to procurement toolkit for highway maintenance services with John Amos playing a leading role in developing that product. I also wanted to make you aware of another product that's been previously launched which is relevant to the other two, a standard specification for highway maintenance services, and Ed Barley from URS will be presenting the presentation on that product. So as I said, my name is Matthew Lugg and I'm pleased to be a HMEP advocate. I'm currently seconded to the Department of Transport from my own authority, Leicestershire County Council, to help lead on the development of HMEP. For those of you not aware, what is HMEP? Well, it's a sector-led transformation programme, and that's really important. It's not just about people like me from local highway authorities or the Department of Transport, but it's about everybody in the sector getting together to help lead and drive out efficiencies in the sector. And what will we be doing? Well, we're trying to provide a source of information and focal point where we can celebrate and share best practice around efficiencies in the services we provide. As said before, it is a partnership between public and private sector, and we're working closely with the HMEP, the key trade association stakeholder group in developing these products, but also with other providers through the supply chain. And what we're trying to do is go beyond some of the incremental efficiencies that have already been delivered to date to look at more innovative ways of working for the future. And why is it relevant now? Well, clearly we are in a time of austerity. The economic pressures continue and we've seen significant cuts in public expenditure. Up to 23% of public expenditure has been cut to date, and the bad news is there are further cuts on the horizon. So it is beholden on us to do everything we can to try and save money and find better ways of using our very limited resources. And I said earlier, we need to find real savings over those incremental improvements. And clearly it's important that we do everything in our powers to maintain a safe, serviceable road network, which is essential to the economic prosperity of our country. So how are we progressing HMEP and what does it involve? Well, I've said before, it's for the sector, by the sector. It's including practical solutions, toolkits, products, advice, and clearly everything that we develop needs to do demonstrational efficiency outcomes. And in the offer, we're developing a number of products and processes, right from a strategic review, analysing authorities offering a peer review type process to local councils, into trying to signpost good practice in a depository known as the Knowledge Hub. We're also developing toolkits and guidance, and some of those we'll be sharing with you today, and everything predicated on where we can identify good practice. So what are the key themes? Well, clearly it's recognised that authorities working in collaboration can demonstrate their ability to drive out costs through economies of scale. Asset management is a crucial element in this. Without good asset management, how do we know we're making best use of the valuable resources we have available to us? And in particular today, we'll be focusing on procurement. And at the moment, there's a real mixed economy in terms of the types of procurement that we go out and lack of standardisation. And overarching all of this, it's important that we have clear performance measures, that we have the ability to benchmark our services to help drive forward improvement. So what are the products that we'll be talking about today, and why have we chosen to invest in them? Well, for me it's amazing that to date there is no standard highway maintenance contract available for local highway authorities. So what happens is local authorities either develop their own bespoke contract or they take hold of others and modify it. So you have a complete mixed economy out there of the type of contracts available. And in order to try and consider what would be appropriate going forward, we undertook a survey of the sector. And from that survey, we identified from local highway authorities that their preferred way forward was using the NEC 3 suite of authorities. We also identified that authorities were still using ICE, which is no longer supported as a form of contract. And those that were using the NEC, very few of them were using the term service form of contract. So clearly we identified real scope to help the sector by developing a standard contract. The routes to procurement toolkit. Again, every local authority before it goes to market has to go through a process to consider what the best option is available to them. And there are a number of options available. And a lot of these will be predicated on the authority's appetite for risk, its starting point, its politics, its economic issues and geography. So to help authorities through that process, we've worked with CHIT in developing a real innovative interactive website, which we'll be hearing about today. And it will help authorities through those processes that they need to consider in choosing their optimum route to procurement. The standard spec, again, it's amazing to date there isn't a national standard of specification for local highway authorities. So what happens is, well, local authorities either use the DFT, DMRB specification, which was for new works in a particular trunk roads and therefore is not necessarily relevant, and modify it or write their own specifications. So there is a complete inconsistency in specifications available to local authorities. And therefore, if we move forward and develop a common spec, then there's a real opportunity to drive out costs through standardisation. So this is why this product as well is very important, and it also links in with the standard contract. Because clearly if you go to market, not only do you need a contract, but you need a specification to work with. Another important aspect, and as I said earlier, this is very much a sector-led initiative, that we've worked with a number of organisations in developing these contracts. So we haven't just sat in a corner and produced them in isolation. We've thoroughly engaged with the sector, and you'll hear a bit more in detail about the individual products. But all these products have been shared with these organisations through the project board that we've had overseeing their development. And what are the benefits? Well, there will be individual benefits for authorities in saving cost in developing the products themselves. All these products are going to be freely available on the DFT website at no cost. And we know that local authorities spend probably way beyond 100,000 developing their own contracts. So therefore, if anybody uses this from day one, there is potential to save 100,000. And that's just initial savings. But as we move to more standardisation in contract terms, then there'll be other indirect savings in terms of the industry and their tendering costs, because what the sector will see is a common standard contract rather than them having to employ legal advisors in very bespoke type contracts. And the contract itself is going to be predicated on best practice through innovation and incentivisation, and all those things will help save costs in the delivery of highway services. And again, the routes procurement toolkit. We've estimated that authorities spend up to £50,000 employing consultants to help advise them on the options for procurement. So immediately you've got something that's freely available that would have been in the past provided by consultants at cost, that authorities can have at no cost whatsoever. Finally, on the standard specification, and this is where there is real potential to drive out very large costs, if authorities can harmonise on common specification of commodities over a geographic area, then their buying power will be so much stronger and they can drive costs through the supply chain, drive down costs through the supply chain. And I think the 5% is a very minimal figure. It could be considerably more than that, plus the cost of having a specification ready available, because again, through the survey we estimated that authorities spend up to £60,000 developing and keeping up to date their own specification. So all these products clearly will deliver significant benefits to authorities, and that's why we've invested in them. And what's the process we've gone through to deliver them? Well, clearly we've identified through the survey and through our discussion with the sector where the potential is, and we've developed business cases to take them forward. Having got approval for funding the business cases through the DFT funding available for HMEP, we then developed the product using consultants and contractors that we felt have had the most appropriate skills to develop this product. Having developed the product then, we've been ready to take it forward into release, and that's why I'm here today explaining to you these two particular products which we've reached the release stage. Now, some of them will be readily available for all highway authorities. Some of them will go through an early enabler process, because clearly with a standard contract not everybody will be in a position to take it up from day one. And what the benefit will be through early enabler is that we'll have interaction that will help fine-tune the product as we go forward for the benefit of others. I also just want to make you aware that some further products will help underpin the ones that we're releasing today, and these have already been, the funding has already been supported by the Department of Transport through HMEP, and we've already commissioned the work, so these things are progressing as I speak. The first one is a further development of having a standard suite of contract documents, but taking the process a stage further. And there are aspects of the contract that aren't currently or haven't currently been developed, particularly around things like a method of measure and the schedule of rates and bill of quantities. So we're looking to plug that gap with this toolkit. Also, the specification I mentioned earlier doesn't cover the full range of highway maintenance activities. So again, we want to provide something that's more comprehensive, and this particular piece of work will help supply that. The other important aspect of this is having all these documents available on some document management system will help authorities in compiling contracts and managing them, rather than having bits of information in hard copy and then having to cut and paste things together. And what's quite interesting in developing this product is that we're working with a consortium called HAND, which are an organisation of authorities in the old Humberside region that have had this product available for a number of years, and we see a real potential of working with them to make it more widely available. And this product will be available later this year. Clearly, having a new contract is really important in specification, but just releasing it isn't going to be good enough. What we've got to do is underpin it with some training and support. As I mentioned earlier, some people haven't moved away from the ICE standard of contract, so there's a need to raise people's knowledge about the best practice approach of managing contracts. So in this product that we're developing, and we're getting on with it now, so we can back it up quite soon after the launch today, is initially to have some awareness around the contract. So clearly this webinar is one aspect of awareness, but we want to go out and have some presentations around the country and bring authorities together who are looking to procure in the near future to further provide some information about the contract. Getting people knowledge on NEC is really important, because the NEC3 is the core of this contract, and we want to work with NEC in relation to existing products they have on the shelf, particularly around e-learning, because that means that rather than people having to spend time away from their desk in classroom environment, which is expensive, having an e-learning toolkit where people can do readily at their own time within the office is going to be a much better way of trying to provide that knowledge transfer in terms of making people aware of the NEC type of contract. Now that will only go so far. What we then need to do is to do further very specific training around the contract itself. And what we've identified is that we'll develop a package where we'll invite those early enabler authorities that are going to market in the next 2 years to a conference workshop over 2 days, where we'll have quite intensive advice and presentations around the contract. And being in a workshop type mode, there can be interaction with the people there in terms of asking questions around the information they're receiving. And clearly this then will provide very comprehensive advice for those authorities that are going to market and are going to use the new product. Once we've developed the product and the training, then this can be used again for the future. But at the moment we're just focusing on authorities going to market over the next 2 years. but this work will then be available in perpetuity for the future for our authorities that will benefit from the new products. So I'm delighted to make you aware of these products today. You'll now be hearing the next presentations. What we will be doing is providing a mechanism for you if you have any questions around any of the presentations that you can then feed in through the webinar process, and then we can try and filter answers back to you. Thank you very much.